You are listening to the Love and Money podcast, and today I have a very special guest. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be here.
Okay, so Amber, I'd like to start off by having you tell us who you are and what do you do?
Sure. I'm a lawyer by trade, and sort of as a hobby, I'm also interested in personal finance. So I've been practicing law for about 8 years, and that's when I sort of started. Well, I started my personal finance journey years ago, starting from when I was in high school applying for scholarships, going to college. But I was really able to sort of start building wealth when I became a lawyer. 8 years ago. So I am sort of been on that path and writing some books about finance and education.
Okay, sounds great, Amber. What is your background? Can you talk about your background a little bit?
Sure, like where I grew up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm from a town in Chicago, right in the south suburbs called Markham, Illinois,
Okay.
which is predominantly Black neighborhood, low income neighborhood. So yeah, that's where I grew up. That's why I spent most of my time, went to all the schools there, and sort of made it out, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with that area. So Amber, explain your position as an attorney um, a little bit. Like, what kind of cases do you take on? Or
Yeah, so I've mostly been working in the government sector for the 8 years. I have only been working in government. I'm sort of a jack of all trades. I do a lot of sexual harassment and assault cases, and then I'm also in the military. So I'm a captain. I'm a lawyer for the U.S. Army, and I do different types of cases there. Employment hearings for determining whether someone should be removed from the army, and a host of other ad hoc duties.
Hmm, that's interesting. Um, where do you work, if you don't mind? If you
I don't want to say here, but I'm in the army, which can be virtually anywhere.
okay, that's fair
It's
enough.
everywhere.
Fair enough. Now I'm curious, have you seen any cases dealing with electronic harassment and stalking? Have you ever seen those cases prosecuted? Because
Yes, yes. So I was a prosecutor a few years ago for McHenry County State's Attorney's Office, and I had a couple cases. And then when I was a law clerk, I in law school, that's where you kind of like intern for a judge. I saw a lot of stalking harassment cases because the judge I worked for did a lot of harassment cases. So yes.
okay, I'm just curious because there is a stalking going on. Like there's a whole lot going on, but like stalking and then electronic harassment is going on too, and a lot of people don't know about it.
Mm.
But so Amber, what sparked your interest in finance?
So I think that, growing up in a more poor environment, I was sort of made up in my mind that I didn't want to live that life in my own future once I had the ability to sort of take over my own finances and be independent and accountable for myself. So I think that's what mainly sort of drew me in to being financially independent. And so when I started off making money as a lawyer, I started to try to figure out what's the smartest and best way to set myself up for the future. And so I just started researching different finance blogs and start reading a bunch of stuff, and sort of came across FIRE, the Financial Independent Retire Early movement. And from there, I just started listening to more podcasts and reading more articles until I really became pretty sort of an expert on the topic. And that's sort of what got me interested in why I eventually wrote my book.
Okay. Yeah, that fire movement is interesting because once you start to think about something, like you find out there's a whole lot of people like in the same movement.
Yes, yes. They're all on Twitter. With money Twitter, I tweet people all the time about money, and it's a big subculture for sure.
Okay, Amber, talk about your book a little bit.
Yeah, so I wrote it last year. It was published, I think. But it's called the Road to Millionaire Status, and it's basically about how anybody can be a millionaire, pretty much, just by doing very simple sort of things like investing in your 401k or whatever your retirement vehicle is over the course of a number of years, and just how that money can compound over time and really sort of turn you into a millionaire. Investing in like your Roth IRA, opening up a brokerage account, obviously saving money and paying off debt. All of those things can contribute to you becoming a millionaire, and it's actually a lot easier than people think. People think that $1 million is so high, and that, sort of like the average person can never achieve that, and that's not true. If you start early enough, and if you are on the path, and if you start sort of snowballing the amount of money that you're able to make, a regular government worker can become a millionaire.
That's interesting, Amber. So, can you talk about some of the things that you're doing to build wealth? What?
Sure. So every year I invest in my Roth IRA. Well, I invest in traditional and then I roll it over to Roth. So that's basically where you can put in $6,000 a year towards your retirement. That's separate from your 401k. I always have two jobs, like I'm in the Army Reserves, and then I have a full-time civilian job. So I work for the government, so I'm able to put in money into the government pension program. And then the Army also has what's called the TSP, which is a thrift savings plan, which is a 401k essentially. And for the last 4 years, I put all the money that I would have received, like after taxes, into that plan. And then beyond that, I also have a brokerage account, which I put money in monthly. And then, of course, I make sure not to get in debt or buy things that I can't afford. So, all of those things have sort of contributed to me being able to snowball the wealth. And then, in addition, I don't own a home, and I lease my car. So, I don't have any additional like maintenance costs or unforeseen costs that come up. Like a lot of people have, a car where something breaks down, you have to pay for it, and it's sort of money that you weren't planning to spend. And I don't really have that situation. So all those things have sort of led me to be able to build a
Okay. So, Roth IRA, TSP, brokerage account, and then you said
pension.
pension. Okay.
Yeah.
And then a brokerage account, and you said working two jobs.
Yes. Working two jobs helps, being a lawyer helps. Obviously, high paying positions, obviously you're able to save a lot more, invest a lot more. And then I keep my costs really low. Like I drive a Kia. Um, I don't live in like a super lavish apartment downtown. Like I try to really keep things to the bare minimum, obviously spending money on things that I really want or like.
Okay. So, what are you actually invested in?
Yeah, so I have actually a managed account with Merrill Lynch, which is the wealth management. So they sort of choose my investments, but it's an aggressive fund, which basically means that I have mostly stocks, which are ETFs. I have ETFs in communication, I think oil, tech, and a bunch of other, I think the Vanguard funds. And they sort of determine based on what they think is upcoming. They have like analysts who study this, and they sort of invest the money themselves based on their knowledge. And they sell and buy things. And I have like the app so I can see like, oh, they just sold that and bought that. And so they sort of do it for me. And so I'm not picking like individual stock like Apple or anything like that. So the great thing about ETFs is if one of the tech companies, like let's say you're buying a tech ETF, does not perform well, those people are removed from the ETF and like other people are added. I'm not probably explaining things in a very technical manner because I'm not like a financial analyst, but that's how I sort of understand ETFs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds very good, Amber. Can you talk about your plan? Like, when do you plan to retire? Like, how many years?
Yeah, so I'm 30. I'm about to turn 32 next week. So I'm 32 right now. when I did the Bigger Pockets Money interview, I plan to retire at 50, so that's in like 18 years. But since that interview, funny enough, I've had so many people reaching out to me like, you can retire way earlier. Why are you waiting till 50? You're going to have too much money. So I'm contemplating now if I want to retire earlier than 50. I definitely could go work optional at 40 for sure. Um, but I'm sort of wondering myself if I'm ready to stop working in 8 years, and sort of what I want to do long term. So definitely 50 is the cutoff. But I'm considering whether I want to do like some sort of part-time work starting at 40.
Okay, sounds good. Um, so Amber, can you tell us what is your favorite book or some book recommendations?
Sure. So, of course, I'm going to say mine. I've written and published 5 books in the past 5 years. The most recent one being the one that we just discussed about the road to millionaire status. But I have other books about going to law school and about going to college debt free because that's what I was able to do. So that actually helped me a lot on my financial journey. The fact that I didn't have any undergrad loans really sort of was able to springboard off of that. So I would definitely suggest those that I really liked. There, I haven't really read. I mean, I've listened to a lot of podcasts on personal finance, but I started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I just couldn't get into it. I know a lot of people swear by that one, but yeah, those are my recommendations.
Okay, Amber. So I'm gonna switch over to love, and because this is a love and money show. So Amber, are you single or married?
I am single. Yes, probably why I have so much money.
Okay. Amber, I can't believe you got me laughing here. So, Amber,
Yes.
what have you learned about money when it comes to relationships that could help somebody else?
Yeah, so I would say to not make your relationship about don't bring money into the relationship, I would say. For one, romantic or otherwise, friendships as well. I've seen situations where, people loan people a lot of money
Mhm.
and or there's also situations where some people like professionals like myself will and like you will date people who maybe don't have as much money, and so when it comes to going out and doing things that they want to do like traveling or whatever, they're footing the bill for a lot of the activities, and that sometimes can hurt a relationship if you're paying for things out of pocket for others. So I would say, like, a lot of people say, like, oh, you're being a gold digger if you choose someone, based on money. But I think it's sort of the opposite. You should be looking for somebody that's sort of on the same page as you money wise. It just makes things a lot easier.
That's interesting, Amber. So, Amber, uh, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you? And also, where can they get your book?
Sure. So my books are all on Amazon. If you go to Amazon.com and search my name, Amber Porter, in the search box, you will find them. I also have a link tree. It's linktree backslash Money Moves author. So you can go to that link tree. And then I'm on Twitter as at Money Moves AUTH off. And so those are all my links.
Okay. And your book sounds good because we can get into the actual investments in that road to wealth.
Yes, yes, definitely.
So the last question, Amber, did you have any last words to leave for the audience?
I would say that, don't ever think that a goal is too high, right? Like, a lot of people are like, they don't start at the first step because they're like, oh, I'll never make it up there, or I'll never be able to do that. And when I first started, I was just a kid living at, home in poverty. Like I was not, no one thought that I could do what I do now. No one thought that I could be a lawyer. No one thought that I could graduate from college debt free. And it was really my own faith in myself and my own sort of grit that sort of carried me along. And it was a very long journey that was very difficult. And I did not see a lot of, uh, a lot of, I didn't see the outcome when I was doing it. It was just very tough. And so I would just encourage people to keep pushing.
Keep pushing. Sounds good, Amber. Amber, thank you for being on the show and sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you.